Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider, as well as lead Lakers content creator for Offside, joined on this fine Monday afternoon by you guys. Today on the show, we're going to be, there's a few things that I want to hit on, starting with the center position. And I want to make the case that the Lakers need to rethink how they address that position here moving forward. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the reactions to what I thought was pretty benign comments about Austin Reaves last night. People did not seem to like pointing out that there is a certain type of defense or pressure that Austin doesn't seem to respond very well to. And you know, there's some nuance there that, you know, needs to be picked up on. We're going to talk about, you know, if the Lakers aren't going to, you know, if they don't consider themselves a championship contender this year, which based on this trade deadline, I think we could probably say they don't. Does it make sense for JJ Redick to maybe start focusing more on some of the guys who might actually be there next year? Or should he continue to kind of ride it out with these, you know, these kind of mercenary type guys who might not? So we'll talk about that. I have a question from the iTunes mailbag. And then you guys are going to have to carry the show. So whatever questions or comments that you guys have over the course of the show, hit me with them, and I'll answer as many questions here from you guys as I can over the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. A reminder, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that like button, and please continue to help this thing grow. As you guys have again noticed, this is just on YouTube now, as well as podcast form. This does air in the morning on the podcast feed, but this is no longer on Twitter. And so if you guys are looking to find the show, you can do so at youtube.com/@LakersLounge. And if you guys you want to make sure that you're here whenever we go live, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, turn on those notifications, and let's all get together and have a ball. Man, that was sadder than if I would have just said, let's get going. All right, so let's start with what I think is kind of a central issue in the way that Rob Pelinka kind of does business. Rob does this thing where he basically decides, like, all right, Anthony Davis, your strength is as a defensive anchor. So AD, you got the defense, right? LeBron, you are you know, this offensive engine. You are a offensive mastermind. We'll provide you with shooting and stuff like that. But in terms of like the offensive system and stuff, like, you are going to be the offensive system. So here we are. And then you know, now it's Luka, who is the offensive system, who's this and that. And basically what Rob Pelinka has done for the first year of the Luka Doncic tenure is like, all right, Luka, you can make basically any center into league average or replacement level, right? Okay, cool. So good luck with Jackson in the postseason last year, and now good luck with Ayton in the postseason this year. And wipe my hands. Good luck, bud. And I just think that, like, that approach sufficed with LeBron and AD, so long as, like, and like the time that it worked the absolute best was when Rob focused on balance throughout the roster. He didn't over uh index on playmaking as Magic Johnson did the first time, right? As a result of not getting Kawhi Leonard, Rob kind of had to, had to have his ducks in a row. And the guys that he went out and got or kept were these like solid role players who didn't have like a fatal flaw. And what the Lakers need to do is get back to employing guys who don't have like a fatal flaw to their game. Are they going to be like as great at the one thing that like Vanderbilt is an incredible versatile defender, all that stuff, but he's also not playable because he can't shoot. So will you get a defender as good as Jared Vanderbilt? Maybe not, because those guys who can also play well on the offensive side, those guys tend to be max level role players. And then, when it comes to the bigs, right? Um, it's a matter of like, all right, are you gonna focus on uh the like if you're a Luca big, right? All right, you're probably gonna make no more than the mid level, and we need you to just rim run, be okay defensively, and all that stuff. But that means that like that turd that you're asking Luca to polish, that player isn't going to be as effective as some of these other options that would otherwise be on the market. And so like when the Lakers approach this summer, rather than just basically saying to Luca, "Hey, man, it's on you to make whatever center that we bring here work." And I'm not saying that they say that explicitly to Luca. That's what they're doing through their actions. Rather than do it that way, right? Why not like rather than asking Luca to turn DeAndre Ayton into replacement level, why can't why not go out and get a good center and allow Luca to turn him into an elite center? And so like one of the things that I've been kind of wondering about is with Jalen Duren, as they kind of face some roster crunches there in Detroit. Cade Cunningham's extension is going to kick in. They're going to have to pay like Isaiah Stewart potentially. They're going to have to pay, and continue to improve the roster as well. Like if you throw a max offer at a Jalen Duren, would they match it? And like, would I be over the moon about paying Jalen Duren max money? No, no, not quite. That would be a lot to expend on the one position. But if you get a Jalen Duren, you get a guy who is physical enough to not be moved by Jokic. You get a guy who has all the touch and athleticism that you need to function next to Luca. You get the centerpiece of your defense and the anchor of your defense at a young-ish age, and he can now grow. And you now have like probably the most important position figured out while you employ a Luka Doncic. And, doing that rather than hoping that like Daniel Gafford's ankles work again this summer, or, hoping that OKC makes the decision to give you Isaiah's Hartenstein, um, because of the roster crunch that they're facing. Like, I just think, he is an example. Duren is an example of a direction that the Lakers have been reluctant to go in, rather than asking Luca to turn the okay into good. Why not give him the opportunity to turn the good into great? And I that is and that way, like you don't go into the season, because this is again now two postseasons where the Lakers are going to go into them not comfortable at all about what they're doing here with the center spot, and that would make me a little nervous. So, yeah, I think the question that we got here from the iTunes mailbag is regarding centers too. So we'll probably come back and revisit this in a second. But that's just a a course correction on a more macro level, in this case, isolated to the one position that we're talking about, center, but like I just think it's a difference in the way that the Lakers have, and Rob Pelinka specifically, has gone about building rosters around superstars rather than, like with AD for years they were like, all right, Anthony, you're gonna have to make up for every aspect of this shitty defensive roster, and you're gonna have to carry this team. And yeah, it's probably gonna sink your defensive rating and any chance you ever have at being recognized for being a great defender. Like, but good luck, bud. Like, can you handle this? Is that okay? Like, you're gonna be saddled with, you know, poor defenders and guys who aren't disciplined, and you're going to be asked to make it work, and it's all going to be on you. And when you go to the bench, you can only be there for like 3 minutes at a time, because every time you go and sit down, the game defensively is going to go to shit. So and that's where, like, I just think if they had focused more on putting a more balanced roster around AD, around LeBron, that you wouldn't arrive at this first chapter of the Luca era this poorly equipped. And look, like, that's all done. That's it's time to move forward and stuff like that. And I know that people are kind of sick of me harping on the decisions that got the Lakers to this point, because you don't want to hear that, like, the people that you're rooting for or the team that you're rooting for isn't very good at this. But when the Lakers go into this offseason and they have all of these boxes that they're going to have to check, I hope the first one they focus on is the center spot, so that that center and Luca can be kind of the cornerstones of your organization moving forward, and your basketball identity moving forward. The other part of, this identity, basketball wise, moving forward, is going to be Austin, right? Like, I want to be clear. I think the Lakers are going to pay Austin whatever they have to keep him. I think that Austin is going to be worth whatever his max is going to be. I made the mistake last night of talking about him as if he's going to be a $45 million player. I don't think he can even make that much this upcoming season. So, like, given that Austin's max contract is a little bit more reasonable than some of these super maxes out there, the term maxing him out isn't as daunting as it might be for some other options. That said, it's been really interesting over the last, let's see, I made these points at, we'll say, 16 hours or so. It's been really interesting since last night. My mentions are a tire fire, because I pointed out that Austin struggled against this kind of defense again. And like, the leaps and bounds that people make based off of basketball analysis is crazy to me. But also, like, all year, people in this chat have been telling me I'm too easy on Austin, that I'm an Austin stan, and this and that and the other. And then, you criticize Austin, and it's like, you've always hated this guy. Why do you hate Austin Reaves so much? And it's like, no, neither of those things are true. I actually rather like Austin Reaves. I don't hate this guy. I don't have some agenda trying to get Austin out of there. That isn't the case at all. What my one agenda is how can the Lakers put together the best basketball team that they can? And probably they're going to be doing that around Luka Doncic, right? Luka's not going anywhere. Like, the people who were saying, why don't you just trade Luka for Giannis? It's not happening. If your analysis starts there, you're not starting from reality. So if we know that Luka is going to be there, and, like, honestly, we know that Austin is going to be there. So how do you make the Luka and Austin thing work? What type of team do you have to build around Luka and Austin that compounds their strengths and covers up some of their flaws, because their flaws are there, right? We know that, like, Luca as an athlete, not where he needs to be. Like, you could make the real case that Luca, if he wins a championship, would be one of the least athletic best basketball players on a championship team ever, right? And I'm not saying that, like, that's a disparagement or anything like that. It's just reality, right? Like, you look at most best players on championship teams, they are elite athletes in one way or another. Now, where Luca, I do think, is elite athletically, is he has great breaks, real stopping power, and he's strong as an ox. So, like, that does give him some athleticism, but he's not a vertical athlete. He's not particularly fast, and which might help his breaks. But he's not particularly fast. And when it comes to, like, shiftiness, right, it's not really there either. If he gets separation, it's from like, he doesn't necessarily need separation. He is perfectly fine beating players into oblivion in small spaces. And like, the way that he's able to do that is honestly pretty incredible. Um Austin, right? Not super fast, not going to get up and dunk on you, you know. In terms of his, like, lateral shiftiness, I think Austin is very, very good at using players' athleticism against them to make them lean one way, and then Austin is very good at noticing the lean and then going the opposite way. So, but, like, not the shiftiest lateral player that you're ever going to see. Not particularly strong, though I do think he has gotten stronger over the years. And I think this year you're seeing some guys bounce off him a little bit more. And that has been a help. But again, like, if Luca and Austin are the starting point of the roster next year at the very top, then what do you need to provide them to, again, compound their strengths and make up for their weaknesses? To me, again, going back to that first segment, it starts with the center spot, because there you can employ an elite athlete who is super physical, who makes both of those guys, Luca and Austin, better offensively by way of vertical spacing and physical screen setting, right? Like, that is the kind of player that I would start with. Right now, very shortly thereafter, you have to also surround Luca and Austin with perimeter defense. Chris Dunn comes to mind. Uh, you watched the guys last night in Boston, where it's Jordan Walsh, it's Jalen Brown, it's Derek White. Like, you look in OKC, and all of those guys are able to defend. Like, those are the kinds of players that the Lakers, would need to add to the roster next. But I, again, keep coming back to the center spot as how you optimize a Luca and Austin roster. And again, like, pointing out that Austin struggles against perimeter athleticism, like, it's not some personal shot. And yes, there are games that he has fared well. And, like, I put this last night. I was talking about how, like, the Lakers inconsistent system is something that makes me really nervous when it comes to maxing out Austin. And here's a couple of tweets that I sent. So last night said, yes, he had a great game against the Clippers. The Lakers then immediately went away from the things that made him successful in that game. The margins only get smaller when you pay Austin, especially if LeBron walks. I just don't trust this front office to navigate that reality. And basically what I'm saying, I always go back to a scout told me this while Darvin Ham was coaching, that essentially the Lakers will occasionally run good stuff. They will run sets that put defenses in fits and make it really difficult for the defense to contain them. And then they'll just go away from it, right? Like they'll run this cool thing, or they'll bring up this cool concept, and it'll score, on that one possession, and then you won't see it again. An example, again, like I provided last night, was LeBron set a screen, got the ball in the middle of the court, already going downhill against a compromised defense. And you're like, okay, this is a way that you can put one of your engines in give him a competitive advantage against this really good Boston defense. All right, let's see if this is kind of what they build off of. I think they ran it one more time and we didn't see it again. It's a problem. And when it comes to JJ Redick and analyzing JJ Redick as a head coach, Jaylen Brown had an interesting comment last night where he said that the Lakers run this super gimmicky defense because they know they don't want to guard us, right? And what he means is that they cannot guard one-on-one or man-on-man. And so what they are forced to do is, these matchup zones and these quick traps and all of these gimmicks that work in small windows, but eventually offenses kind of figure it out, especially if you don't have the personnel to defend. Like if JJ Redick and his coaching staff are able to devise this defensive system that is pretty gimmicky, that is smoke and mirrors, but is also, or has also been effective in the past, where's that creativity on the offensive side of the ball? And that's where you do, like, when it was Darvin Ham before, and before Luka got there, LeBron was the offensive system, like I said earlier. And if LeBron is the offensive system, and those are the keys that he has been handed, that does sometimes take away from some of the creativity that a coaching staff could bring to the table there. And now we're kind of seeing it again, where yesterday, watch that first quarter back again. And it's just, and look at Luka's shot diet and the way that those possessions were playing out. And even if it isn't Luka specifically, you had possessions where LeBron was dribbling the ball for 17 seconds and took a shot. You had possessions where Austin was dribbling the ball for 17 seconds and then took a shot or turned it over. Like if that is the way that you're going to approach defense, that is, this gimmicky thing that makes up for some of the weaknesses on this roster, well, then where's the equivalent of that on offense? And honestly, like, if the Lakers were able to be more creative there, that's how that's how you overcome some of your defensive questions, is by being so overwhelming on offense that you force the other team to take the ball out of the hoop, and you allow your defense to get set up, and you allow those defensive gimmicks to be those traps to be set, and those gimmicks to be put into play. Like that's complementary basketball. And when it, with what the Lakers are struggling with in these big games, is the offense kind of going away. And I think the problem is that, like, you have three guys, Austin, Luka, LeBron, who kind of, and Luka and LeBron more so than Austin, I think, but like you have these engines that kind of default back to your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. And that is the worst version of the Lakers offense that they have. So, like I thought that, and to kind of finish off this point about, the discipline necessary to maximize Austin, Trevor Lane, friend of the pod, tweeted out this stat that last night the Lakers threw 233 passes, which was a decrease of nearly 50 passes compared to what they threw the previous game against the Clippers. The Lakers throw 269 passes per game on average. That is the fourth lowest in the NBA. So they were well below their already poor average. And, you look at the the problems that the Lakers have had from a shooting standpoint, right? Where guys are either in or out of rhythm. And against Boston, everybody was out of rhythm. I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that over the course of that game, nobody was able to get into a rhythm when the Lakers are throwing so few passes. And all of this stuff, like this is why I love basketball. All of this stuff is a factor in how the Lakers were able to compete in that kind of a game. So yeah, like if you know when you see Austin have a good game against the Clippers, a team that does have dogged, athletic, long, physical defenders, like those defenders were frustrating Luka in that game, and I thought Austin handled it well. And part of the reason that Austin was able to be successful in that game was because he was coming off of screens. The Lakers were doing stuff on the weak side, and he was able, or on the strong side, and he was able to take advantage from the weak side after the ball swung over there. If he was running something, if he was initiating the offense from the strong side, the Lakers had stuff set up on the weak side that would take advantage of whatever blender he was able to start, that made it more difficult for the defense to shade over and affect him, and kept guys like the number of passes that they threw against Boston, kept guys in a rhythm. The ball does have energy within it, and when more guys touch the basketball, I feel like they are going to feel more a part of the game. They aren't going to press as much when they finally do shoot, and the fact that you see such a, like, right after beating the Clippers, the very next game, you see them go completely away from it. And like that isn't an Austin problem. That's a Lakers problem. And so like if I was more confident and comfortable predicting that the Lakers would stay disciplined enough to get everything out of Austin, making whatever his max will eventually be, like until I get there, I am always going to be a little nervous about Austin making that amount of money in a cap sport in this brutal new CBA in this apron heavy system. But it's not personal against Austin. And I don't have some pro or anti Austin agenda. The only agenda I have is one, like, let's get on here and talk basketball. Let's enjoy this stuff together. That community aspect is probably my only like actual agenda is developing this community. But like in terms of like analyzing this sport and this team and stuff like that, I have my biases that like I have to be aware of at all times. But my only agenda here is, hey, how can the Lakers not do that against the Boston Celtics again? How can we avoid that? How can I avoid feeling the way that I felt after I watched the Lakers give up against the Celtics the way that they did yesterday? How do we avoid that? The final thing that I want to talk about before I dive into your guys' questions and comments here is I think we all know what's up, right? Like I think we all know like where this season is probably heading. And probably not going to feature a championship this year. Never going to say never, but probably not happening. The Lakers seem aware of that reality based on the way that they handled last summer and this most recent trade deadline. So they clearly don't actually believe in Luca, LeBron, and Austin as a trio. They probably believe in Luca and Austin as a duo, but they clearly don't actually believe in Luca, LeBron, and Austin as a trio. And so, like, you have a whole bunch of guys on this team who aren't going to be Lakers next year, right? Probably aren't going to be Lakers next year. And I find myself wondering if instead of watching Marcus Smart stink up the gym yesterday, does it make sense to give Magnon a shot out there as a perimeter defender, rather than continue to watch DeAndre Ayton play some of the softest basketball I've ever seen does it make some sense to give Drew Timmy more of a shot to see what he provides rather than, like yesterday, rather than, hoping that Rui, brings whatever we want him to bring consistently more frequently. Why not throw Thiero out there if he's healthy to see what the some youth and athleticism and give a bleep can bring. Because I think back to there was a game, it was the Spurs game. Remember the Lakers played the Spurs and they had basically considered it a schedule loss. And they played that game and Austin wasn't available and Luca wasn't available and LeBron wasn't available, and Marcus Smart and DeAndre, their starting five not available, most of their rotation not available. And remember, Wemby lit the Lakers up for like 25 points in that first quarter. And there was like we were there on the offside chat, and Pete was like, "Hey, have the Lakers got to stop yet?" And it was like 8 minutes into the first quarter. And I was like, dang, I don't think they have. And then, the game gets out of hand. The Lakers get down by 20 or 30 or whatever it was. And finally, JJ hits the eject button on the game and puts in some youth, some athleticism, some guys who are hungry enough to continue to fight to gain their spot in the league or, maintain any spot in the league. And like I find myself wondering if you aren't like I'm so sick of these seasons where you get to the end of them and you just feel like you didn't really accomplish anything. And that's where this thing is heading. Where all right, you didn't get younger or more athletic at the trade deadline. You didn't get younger or more athletic over the course of the season. You kept on trotting out these mercenaries who probably aren't going to be on your team after this year. Like you look at all of these teams that are, where the Lakers eventually want to get to, and it involves living with the discomfort that comes with playing young guys. Like this is one of the problems I think with JJ Redick's coaching is he just does not have time for young players unless they can theoretically shoot. That's why Dalton Connect kept getting opportunity after opportunity after opportunities because he profiled like a guy that JJ Redick believes in. If you don't profile like that, you're never going to get. The Lakers gave Kobe Buffkin that they signed him for the rest of the season. We haven't seen him in any meaningful minutes since. And Drew Timmy I thought played well for a stretch there on a two-way. And again, we haven't seen him since because Maxi Kleber got in there and had like 5 good minutes. And then we haven't even seen him since. Not that I want to see more Maxi. Magnon has barely been able to play at all this year. Bronny James hasn't played any meaningful minutes this year. And like, part of it is, hey, does this scouting department know what it's doing? Were they just drafting bad players? Or is that focus on development that Rob Pelinka told us about coming into the season, was that a farce, as guess who called it a farce back then was or thought it would be? So like I do find like if the Lakers are going to continue to lose these games to the better teams in the league, which they have on the year, right? Like Jovan tweeted out the stat. So the Lakers are 4-11 against the other 9 teams with a top 10 record, and they always get their asses kicked in those games. If they're going to continue to lose those games, can you at least lose with some younger guys so they get some, reps in those games? I don't care. Like, I don't care if they fall out of the playoffs, to be completely honest. It doesn't matter to me. Right? Like if you're I think, I believe they have their draft pick this year. So, and I'm not saying tank. I'm not going that far. But give some reps to some younger guys, some athletes, some guys with more hunger to them than these guys who we see all too often kind of roll over against the better teams in the league. Um, so like I am at this point here where is it time for more of a youth movement? Is it time to kind of rethink the priorities based off of the message sent from the front office last summer in this trade deadline? Like, is it time to kind of rethink this? You aren't going to win a championship. Can you improve in ways that we feel next year? And I think this is one of the ways that you can. All right. The next question, or the first question that we have from the iTunes mailbag, and a quick reminder, if you guys want a question on the show in these weekly mailbag episodes, the best way to do so in a free manner is to ask your question in the form of a 5-star review on iTunes. The first one that we have here is from QBreezy12. Since Ayton and Jackson clearly aren't championship centers, how do the Lakers solve that problem? I love Duren and he's everything Ayton isn't, but there isn't any way they throw him an offer sheet and Detroit doesn't match this summer. It's been over a year. Lucas still doesn't have a viable 5. Yeah, I mean, like I used Duren as an example earlier because I know that the Lakers, when basically they were looking to trade for a center right after they acquired Luka, they asked Detroit about Duren. They asked New Orleans about Messi. They asked, obviously, they traded for Mark Williams and then rescinded the trade. But yeah, I really do wonder, and maybe I'll start asking around. I really do wonder if Duren, if you max him out, to what extent Detroit is comfortable matching that offer. And at the very worst, right, if you max him out, worst thing that could happen is Detroit matches, and now they have his big contract, which will eventually lead to potentially other tougher decisions on other guys on that roster. And that's a really good young roster that they have in Detroit there, right? So is that something that makes some sense? But yeah, I to get back to kind of the central, no pun intended, the central point of the first segment here, and then this question, what it just comes down to is rethinking the way that the Lakers approach that position, because I'm just you can get away with Ayton or Hayes or some combination thereof over the course of the regular season. But by the time you get into the postseason, eventually your center is either going to have to guard Nikola Jokic if you play Denver in a series. Your center is going to have to deal with the physicality that Minnesota presents. Your center is going to have to deal with the constant barrage of drives and kicks and picks and rolls that OKC throws at you. And that center is going to have to do that while also, by the way, being a key factor in your offensive system. Ayton has to set so many screens per game and rolls to the basket so often per game whenever he's out there, then it might actually be that he just gets tired. Like he might want to play tougher, but he's just exhausted by the end of the game. And it takes a center with immense talent, immense motor, elite athleticism and conditioning to be the kind of center that Luka needs. I don't think it's a coincidence that when Luka got to the finals, it was with Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively and Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleba, and it was all these options that gave that forced teams to deal with all kinds of different pick and rolls, whether it was Luka running them or Kyrie running them. And then they surrounded those elements of the offense with athleticism on the wing and enough shooting on the wing to get by. And that got you to the NBA finals. And I think here with the Lakers, like there's the blueprint. It's right there. The questions to the quiz are right there, and I think one of the, like, what you've seen from Dallas over the years while they had Luka was a focus on the center position. And it wasn't like, hey, can you make this work with this guy No, it was like, hey, here's like they drafted Derek Lively in the lottery, like top 10 pick, right? Was what they used to get Derek Lively. And like that's a key asset that was expended on that position, and that was after they traded for Daniel Gafford, or before they traded for Daniel Gafford. Like they did both of those things. So yeah, I love the idea of Duran, and even like if you like, because I think Aiton is going to opt in. So if you go into the season next year with Jalen Duran and DeAndre Ayton as your two center options, that's not bad. It's not terrible. And then, maybe you use a two-way spot on another center and maybe, or, whatever. Like that's how you compound Luca's strengths and make up for some of his weaknesses. Is that kind of thinking at that position rather than, hey man, can you make this work? No, like, hey man, can we make you a better player here? That's the question that you should be asking. All right. We have a super comment. So I am going to play the most important sound on the show. All right. So the question here comes from Let's Run UNLV, more of a Braun than Lakers fans. I'll still support the Lakers when he's gone, but part of me would be happy when the Lakers surely fall on their face. Well, I would understand how a LeBron fan would feel this way. And I think eventually, like, Luca fans are going to start feeling this way. But yeah, like I'm old and I can only really think about sports through the prism of my favorite teams, not my favorite players, my favorite teams. Like all year, I was making the case to my friends, hey, I think the Vikings should probably trade Justin Jefferson. If they are going to do this JJ McCarthy thing, probably makes sense to get whatever you can for Jefferson to give yourself more bites at the apple to fill out a full roster that is more linked up to JJ McCarthy's timeline. Either that or, because I don't have any patience for JJ McCarthy because I think the Vikings have a good roster. Trade JJ McCarthy. I think they should have traded JJ McCarthy at any point to go out and get a more viable winning quarterback. And like, with the Dodgers, with Kershaw. Now it's kind of different in baseball because like you could all in the lit Dodgers did continue to just basically employ Kershaw. But like what I love Clayton Kershaw, the pitcher. He's one of the best Dodgers who will ever wear that uniform. One of my favorite baseball players ever. But when the Dodgers were, focused on winning a World Series, and like if it came down to spending on Kershaw or spending on a pitcher who I think is more predictably going to be healthy in the postseason, it was pretty simple to me. But they were able to keep Kershaw and go out and get those pitchers, and they won a World Series, which is best case scenario because baseball's cap system allowed them to do that. And when the Lakers had Kobe at the end of his career, I part of the reason people feel a certain way about me is because I was there saying like, hey man, eventually you're gonna have to move off, you're gonna have to move away from Kobe and actually start, you know, um e- embracing the future after him, right? And uh now I do think I was probably a little too ardent in some of the ways that I made those points, and there's some tweets that I would probably take back if I could, especially given the way that things played out with Kobe, and in his unexpected passing. Like every time I send a tweet that people don't like, I'd see those screen grabs in my mentions, and I always block all those people. because if you're still bringing stuff up from that far ago, after I've already multiple times over the years said that I regret some of those things, I don't really have patience for you anymore. But like, I was always more of a Laker fan than I was a Kobe fan. I was always more, and I'll always be more of a Dodger fan than any other specific player. And I'll always be more of a Vikings fan than I am of any specific player. And that's just how I view these things. So it's like when it comes to like the LeBron Lakers relationship, I understand like, things are kind of different nowadays. But I'm at the point now where it's like, all right, what is best for the Lakers here? What is best for LeBron here? And if the two sides can find a compromise that sits somewhere in the middle where both sides get continue to benefit from each other, then great. And if not, and he chooses to go off to Cleveland, all right, what can the Lakers do to make up for now his absence there? Because it would be missed. And that's how I feel. Like, that's why I made the point I did about Austin. That's why you guys will catch me criticizing Luka from time to time. Like, there is nobody above the Lakers to me. And that if you're looking for like a specific player channel, that's that you aren't going to find it here. But I can totally understand those who do root for sports that way, those who do, and I'm not even holding it against people who do feel that way. Like, I've always kind of wondered, would it be more fun? Like, I don't know what you do after your favorite player retires or goes away. I don't know if you just immediately find a different favorite player and you start following that player all over the league. That would be interesting. But like, if you do feel that way about LeBron and you are as sick as, trust me, I am too, by how they've dicked around LeBron for the last, 3-4 years, then like I also would probably, if I was looking through the basketball world through that prism, I would also be probably rooting for the Lakers' demise. Now, I'm not going to root for the Lakers' demise because I am a Laker fan and all of my stuff traffics better when the Lakers are playing better. But to those who do feel that way, like, man, do you? Let's see. I'm gonna go back up here and yeah. So apologies here. So Sharoz Wahid camera is zoomed in. So I have this like AI thing that you can zoom out a little more. That looks a little better, right? And then there's like this one here where you can zoom like way in. That is way too much cheek in the picture. So I'm gonna zoom it out. I'm gonna keep trying to zoom it out. See, this is the other problem is that like you sit here and you're like, all right, zoom out. There we go. So that's all the way zoomed out. Now let's zoom in a little bit, please. Hello. Hello. Go. Go. All right. Well, now I'm stuck like this. But yeah, it's this new camera that I have that like follows me around the room, which hopefully doesn't make you guys motion sickness. Like, come on, you gonna do this? No, not gonna do it. All right. But yeah, I'm still getting used to this tech and this system here. So stick with me. All right. JJ, it's just such a crazy name. Every year is a gap year with Rob at the helm. So this is a point that I've been trying to figure out a way to make. Let's see if I go here. That's too zoomed in. Let's see if I can go here. Can I go? There we go. That's a little better. I think that's it. I think that's the move right there, right? But every year is a gap year with Rob at the helm. And one of the points that I was trying to make on the show last night, watching the Lakers get their asses kicked by Boston, is how like, and somebody quote tweeted with this, and I retweeted it, but like one of the reasons that I think the Lakers lack culture to the extent that they do is because basically since like for the last 3-4 years, it's been complete rebuild after complete rebuild after complete rebuild after complete rebuild. And now you have some guys who have stuck around and you have, and You have, like obviously LeBron is stuck around and Austin is a mainstay now, and Luka has been a Laker for a while, and Vanderbilt has been a Laker for a while. But like, if we just go through the names of players who have been Lakers for a long time, there isn't really a through line of like what they bring to the table, and that through line, focusing on that through line, that would be your culture, right? And so by constantly working to take advantage of cap space, or constantly, waiting to pounce on the next star who might become available, like that's how you arrive at a place where, what is the Lakers culture? What is it that, like, from a basketball stand, I still don't know. I mean, like, aside from combo guards, I still don't know what Rob Pelinka truly believes in from a basketball standpoint, right? It's the Tupac song. Who do you believe in? Like, what is it that Rob Pelinka believes in? What is his vision? I know what Brad Stevens's basketball vision is in Boston. I know what Sam Presti's basketball vision is in Oklahoma City. You know, I know what Kevin Pritchard's basketball vision is in Indiana, and so on and so forth. Like there are these front office executives who actually think about basketball rather than constantly looking for new and exciting ways to keep your job. And that's where Rob has really kind of crippled the Lakers. Is, his basketball vision before was, hey, I'm going to do whatever LeBron and Clutch tells me to do. And then Luca gets there, well, I'm going to do whatever Luca and Bill Duffy tell me to do. And now it's like, Rob, what is it outside of combo guards and superstars? What is your basketball vision? So long as we don't believe that Rob has any kind of basketball vision, we're going to be stuck here wondering what the Lakers culture is. And so long as we don't see a consistent Lakers culture, every year is going to feel like, well, you're going to get to the trade deadline and you're going to be looking ahead to the summer where maybe, just maybe, the Lakers will finally build that culture out. But they haven't. It hasn't happened. 3 different head coaches under Rob Pelinka's stewardship, all kinds of roster over turnover, organizational turnover. I mean, part of it now, like, is the sale, but the sale happened this most recent year. You've seen Magic Johnson fired. You've seen Jesse and Joey Buss fired. You've seen all of these organizational changes. So the only like steady culture voice here is like, or choice here is what does it take to so that Rob can continue to stay employed, and eventually the snake starts eating its tail, and we'll see if we ever arrive there. Hopefully not. Hopefully he'll be gone before he truly starts eating his own tail. Let's see. All right. I think we're good here. Yeah, Garrett, like, what the fuck was Kennard? Like, Kennard was it's a version of Smart and Aiton as buyout starters. Kennard was this guy whose price apparently dropped low enough that Rob was comfortable trading Gabe and a second on him. And you gave up, like, at a time where you don't have very many assets. You gave up an asset for a few months of Luke Kennard. Is he going to be a Laker next year? Is that going to be? Is he one of those through lines that like, because he, again, like, yeah, he's an incredible shooter, but he's a brutal defender, somebody that teams are going to pick on. So, like, again, like, what is the Lakers culture? What is their central vision? And that just felt like all right, damn acquisition to Lakers fans. All right, shut up. I got you a shooter. Done. Right? We're good here, right? And that's just no way to approach acquiring players. All right. I am going to I like this. Anthony has grown on me since those days. I listened even though I didn't like him at the time. Is that in reference to like the Kobe stuff? Probably, right? Yeah. Um yeah, I think that look, one of the reasons that I like, I love offside as much as I do is because like the chat there is like just strictly like what is going on in the moment. Let's talk about basketball in the moment. Let's talk about this game that's going on. And that baggage is like kind of gone. There is no like in offside, there is no like there's no reward for dunking in offside, which makes conversations a lot more pleasant. Um, that's part of, by the way, I like Discord, like the Lakers Lounge Discord, which I haven't put in the chat here in a while. So maybe I'll drop that one here. So let me see. Discord, Lakers Lounge. Let's see. Invite. So here's an invite to the Discord. But part of the reason that I've liked the Lakers Lounge Discord is because like it's a place where like you aren't necessarily rewarded for being the loudest. And like I get notifications for every message sent on Discord, and I pop in from time to time. We have these conversations there, and it's nice because it's like, if I make a point, or if I, because one of the things that happens all the time on Twitter is you send something in the moment, and if you don't phrase it absolutely perfectly, people are going to jump on you for whatever it is that like you say there, and the way that you say it in the moment. And the Lakers had just gotten their asses kicked to Boston by Boston. I'm already in a bad mood. I'm not that focused on phrasing, and I basically say like, well, once again, Austin Reaves struggled against good perimeter defenders. And you have a whole bunch of other Lakers fans who are also in their feelings because the Lakers just lost to the Boston Celtics. So you have people who are looking for a reason to yell at somebody rather than focus on the fact that their team got their asses kicked by their heated rivals. And it just leads to this very toxic way to talk to people. And I really prefer Discord and Offside because it allows us to talk to people and talk to each other in these more respectable ways. And like, look, man, I'll also cop to the fact that like I was a freaking idiot back then. Drank too much, didn't get enough sleep, didn't treat my body very well. And it led to probably some takes and phrasings that I really regret. And here we are. Uh Machu, Anthony Austin needs to bring at minimum his regular season production to the postseason. If he doesn't, it might be prudent for a sign and trade. His past few postseasons haven't been great. Statistically, they're okay. But yeah, like, I said this the other day to Daman in one of our offside videos, which is, we are talking about, you know, reasons to pay attention to the second half of the season, even though neither he or I think that the Lakers are going to win a championship this year. My thing was I am going to watch Austin extremely closely for the rest of the season, because slotting him as your second best player puts a ceiling on your team. Slotting him as your third best player raises that ceiling, but complicates how much you pay him if you think he's a third best player rather than a second best player. And so like, when it comes to Austin for the rest of the season against better competition, and like again, we have to be fair. Like he did play really well against the Clippers. I thought that the Lakers went completely away from some of the things that made him successful against the Clippers. But he also played poorly against the Oklahoma City Thunder earlier this year. Didn't play well in either of the games against the Suns. He struggled against the athleticism again in this Boston game. And I know people want to point to the 36 points that he scored on Boston before, but a lot of those happened after Boston had already built up a 30-point lead by way of at times picking on Austin on both sides of the ball. And now, like, look, like he didn't have Luca, he didn't have LeBron, but it's not like those guys, when he has both of them, has helped him very much statistically. So I think that, like, look, like I just said about Kobe, about Kershaw, about Justin Jefferson, and those guys are significantly better players for those respective franchises ever. So if I don't feel immense loyalty to do whatever it takes to keep Kershaw or Kobe or Jefferson, like if that's how you're gonna, like, if that's how I feel about those guys, you guys could probably understand that trading Austin or walking away from the negotiating table, um, is like, if walking away from the negotiating table so that you don't pay Austin more than you should, like that also has to be a possibility here. I just bought a car the other day from for Jen, and I, sat there at the table and a few times over said, like, I'm sorry, this isn't quite the price that I'm looking to pay. Good luck getting this price from somebody else. And it was like nothing personal. I'm just going to push away from the table. This is what I was looking to spend tonight. This is what I'm looking to, this and that and the other. If you can get there, cool. If not, no big deal. Maybe the lottery and I'll be comfortable paying your price next time. Although I don't think if I hit the lottery, I would buy a Hyundai. But like, um, this is the thing that I think the Lakers get themselves into some trouble with, where it's like, no matter what, the Lakers are going to do whatever it takes to keep Austin, and Austin is not on the table for anybody but like a Giannis type player in these trade negotiations, or trade rumors. Like that is kind of the approach that can sometimes get themselves into trouble, and sometimes allows agents to take advantage of them. And this is one thing that is going to be like one of the central stories to pay attention to this upcoming summer is, well, until then, how does Austin play? And then based on that stuff, what decision do you arrive at with Austin this summer? All right, that's going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. A reminder, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. Please turn on those notifications if you so choose. If you guys are listening to this in the morning via podcast, hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your podcasts, preferably on Odyssey, but wherever you get it is fine with me. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.